Welcome to Powerful Latinas Speak, a panel where you will hear from three amazing mujeres Latinas that are making a difference in their respective fields of expertise all over the U.S. I'm Carla Leal, reporter and fill-in anchor for Telemundo Chicago, Channel 44, coming to you from my home office in Chicago. And remember that if you are in the Chicagoland area, you can stay on top of the news developing in our region by visiting telemundochicago.com and our Telemundo Chicago app. And you can always reach out to me on my Facebook page, Carla Leal Telemundo. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my handle is Carla Leal TV. We strive to keep you well informed, relaying the news to you in Espanol. These are unprecedented times, and I want to thank each one of you for joining us in this panel. Latinas today are providing fresh, innovative, and a bold new leadership in several different sectors in American society. Three of those critically important sectors to our quality of life are non-for-profit organizations, corporations, and public office. But before we hear from the CEO of LULAC and executive director of GM and the mayor of Tucson, Arizona, I want to take a moment and think about I want to tell you to think about what are you doing or what can you do in your path to make a difference and create change. It could be at your home, at your school, or in your community. This pandemic, while it has presented major challenges to everyone, it has also created opportunities to serve, to innovate, and to come together in the most unexpected ways as we have to stay physically apart. As someone that has been out to numerous communities reporting on the impact of COVID 19 and how it's had an impact on people from all walks of life during the length of this pandemic, I can tell you the need for a helping hand is big and it's everywhere. I can also tell you I feel inspired every time I see among those stepping up to help in places like a food pantry is our youth, which is widely represented. I've seen them sorting out food, directing the car and foot traffic, and even delivering food to those who have had to quarantine. I felt strong and proud the past summer when I found many of you USHLI young leaders canvassing our communities of color with a census campaign that you created. You were focused and you didn't stop until you relayed that important message of making everyone count. It was also encouraging to see and to report on the first person and medical professional who received the COVID 19 vaccine here in Illinois. She was a doctor, Dr. Marina del Rios, a bilingual, powerful Latina that is not only leading by example, she doesn't miss an opportunity to serve and to educate our communities, especially right now, about why you should get the vaccine when it's your turn. Anytime I see Latinas in positions of power setting that example and taking important decisions for the benefit and the advancement of our societies, I feel empowered. And I know that your presence at this panel and your involvement with USHLI is helping you advance in the road of your personal success. I believe in you because several years ago, I was there just like you, attending a USHLI conference as a student and getting inspired with other Latinas that overcame all sorts of obstacles but helped build bridges and opportunities for those coming behind them. So now let's welcome three powerful Latinas that are joining us from different parts of the US today. Joining us from her home in Northern Virginia, we have Cindy Marisol Benavides. She is a Honduran American immigrant who has experienced the American dream And now she devotes her career to public service, to ensuring that countless young people, women, and immigrants have the same opportunity. She is currently the Chief Executive Officer for the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, and the oldest Hispanic civil rights organization in the country. She previously served as the Chief Operating Officer and National Director for Civic Engagement and Community Mobilization for LULAC, Vice President of Field and Political Operations for Voto Latino, and as Northern Virginia Political Director for the 2012 Kane for Virginia senatorial campaign. She has also been a National Director of Community Outreach for the Democratic National Committee and a Latino liaison and Director of Gubernatorial Appointments for Governor Timothy M. Kane. She received her Bachelor's of Arts from Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia, where she graduated valedictorian of her class and studied political science with a minor in Spanish. She has also attended the American University for her master's degree in international affairs, and she's really busy submitting her substantial research paper. Cindy is the founder and co-founder of founding board member of Lula Council 4611, the VA Latino Higher Education Network, VA Coalition of Immigrant Rights, BASIR, and the Hispanic Organization for Leadership and Action, HOLA. And Cindy serves numerous civic boards that can be found on Twitter. You can find her as Cindy Benavides with an S and with an I. And she lives in Northern Virginia with her beloved family. In
Gracias,
Detroit,
Carla.
un saludo y un abrazo virtual. In Detroit, we have Sigal Cordero, General Motors. She is the Executive Director of North America Portfolio Planning at General Motors. And in this role, she is responsible for formulating, defining, and implementing GM's structure for future products and businesses strategy in North America. She has a special emphasis on electrification, emerging business models, and sustainability trends. Sigal is also the president of the GM Latino Network Employee Resource Group, where she provides strategic guidance and support to the company's Latino community. Previously, Sigal was the vice president of urban mobility, where she led Maven's GM car sharing business unit. She's a 20-year GM auto industry veteran, and she has held several global marketing, market research, and general management roles throughout her career. And prior to working at GM, Sigal worked at TAM Brazilian Airlines in various marketing capacities and at NBC Universal as the Director of Consumer Insights for its own stations division. Hailing from Brazil, Sigal graduated from Fundação Getúlio Vargas in Sao Paulo, Brazil, with a degree in business administration, and before she moved to the United States to attend the Wharton School for her MBA. So let's welcome her as well.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be a part of this panel and to share some of my insights of what corporate America is facing with everything that's going around the world, as well as a little bit of my own experience having been with the automotive industry for about 20 years now. It's interesting when I think about the corporate world as well as the automotive industry in this last 20 years, and it's just amazing to think about how much change we're seeing in the last few years. Our CEO, Mary Barra, is famous for saying, we're going to see more change in the next 5 years than we've seen in the last 50. So we are truly at an inflection point in the industry, and I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about what we're working on with everyone.
And from her living room, right in the heart of Tucson, Arizona, we have Tucson's Mayor Regina Romero. She was raised by an immigrant farm worker family in Somerton, Arizona, and Regina is the youngest of six children and began breaking barriers early on as the first member of her family to vote, the first one to graduate from college, and she is a proud graduate of the University of Arizona and holds a postgraduate certificate from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. In 2007, Regina became the first woman to represent Tucson's Ward 1 and Tucson's City Council. While on the council, Regina helped lift Tucson out of the Great Recession to its most prosperous decade in recent history, helping spur the creation of thousands of high-wage, long-term jobs. She has proven herself to be a champion for issues such as acting boldly on climate change, affordable housing, infrastructure investment, immigrant workers' rights, and access to high-quality education. In November of 2019, Regina was elected Tucson mayor, becoming the first woman and first Latina mayor of Tucson, as well as the only Latina mayor in the 50 largest U.S. cities. Regina is the proud mother of two bilingual, bicultural, and bi-adorable children, Emiliano and Luciana, and has been married to Ruben Reyes for 15 years. Bienvenida.
Muchas gracias, Carla. Happy to be here.
Bueno, un abrazo nuevamente muy fuerte para ustedes tres. Mayor Romero, let me start by asking you, what challenges are elected officials like you facing at this time trying to govern?
First and foremost, I'd like to thank USHLI for inviting me to this amazing, unbelievable panel with young mujeres, Cindy and Siegel, as well as you, Carla. Muchas gracias. As well as I'd like to thank Dr. Andrade for giving us the opportunity and really leading USHLI for the past 38 years into what it is. And so thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone that joined this panel. And I'm very honored and happy to be among such amazing mujeres in the nonprofit and corporate fields. You know, I've been opening doors. I've been the first in a lot of things, right? The first in my family to graduate from college, the first Latina ever elected to the Tucson City Council, the first woman mayor, the first Latina mayor. So it's you know, it's sad to say, but I have been confronted by lots of doubt sometimes coming from either the community or males. The political field has been dominated by males, and so for me, it has been a struggle to be able to just keep on pushing through. And it really is in your mind and your heart, wanting to serve your community, and in my case, wanting to serve Tucson, and being able to know that that I didn't see my voice in the political process in Tucson or in Arizona. And so for me, it's about service to my community. It's about pushing through some of that noise and obstacles that have been put in front of me, and knowing that my voice is needed at the decision-making table in Tucson, Arizona, and you know, having mentors, sometimes male mentors, to help me through how to make decisions when a lot of obstacles are put in front of you. So my my method to this madness has been being strong mentally and having a fortitude to know that the goals that I'm carrying forward are really the goals that the citizens of Tucson have told me they want to see instituted in terms of policy in our city.
Thank you, Mayor. And Cindy Benavides, talk to us about how has the role of nonprofit organizations changed or evolved due to the COVID-19 crisis?
Carla, mil gracias por esa pregunta, and an honor to be here with the mayor and with Siegel, one with Mujeres Poderosas who are creating change and impacting our communities, not only across the country, but across the globe. And as I think of that question, LULAC is the oldest and largest national Latino civil rights organization in the country. We turn 92 years young on February 17th of this year. And I can tell you, Carla, that our role has changed immensely. As we saw COVID kick off back in March, we approached the CDC and asked if they had information in Spanish, and their response, we don't have it, and we don't know when we're going to have it. And so LULAC had to kick in high gear to create Ayuda en Español to make sure that our community was getting the resources and language culturally sensitive so that they could access all the resources available to them. At the same time, Carla, we started hearing from LULAC members and from the community who are marching into slaughterhouses, going into the meatpacking industry and finding that they don't see the colleagues, the people that they work with day in and out next to them. And what we were finding, Carla, is that there was a lack of communication in terms of COVID-19 impacting our meatpacking industry. And so we immediately kicked into high gear and started working with the meatpacking industry to make sure that PPE was available to our workers and making sure that our workers understood some of the really basic communication around hand washing, wearing your mask, and social distancing. But something that oftentimes I think in general we forget is that 5 in 6 Latinos have to leave their houses every single day to work and get paid. We are the essential workers of America. And whether that's in the meatpacking industry, whether that's as nurses, doctors, technicians, administrators, and health professions, whether that's as farm workers, whether that's in the grocery stores, whether that's in restaurants, we are present and visible. And the truth is that Latinos have kept our American economy going during this global pandemic here in the US. I would also mention, Carla, that for nonprofits, because we're so trusted and LULAC is one of many national nonprofits, and, just shout out to Dr. Andrade, who leads USHLI and who for decades has impacted not only youngsters, but so many leaders in terms of how we should be able to collectively move our communities forward. There's so many nonprofits that right now are serving multiple roles because our community is so fearful of accessing services. And let me just remind everyone that, we just experienced massive disruptions in Washington, D.C. when we saw insurrectionists storm our U.S. Capitol and attacked our democracy. And so as we think of COVID-19 and how it's disproportionately impacting Latinos right now have the highest hospitalization rates in the country. And then you compound that, Carla, with the fact that so many of our community is now unemployed. So many of our community have been furloughed without pay. So many in our community are scared to access basic resources because they feel that the government may come after them in a way or another. So many in our community are self-evicting from their homes because they don't want to end up in court. And that fear is really stalling the progress in our community. And, for us, Carla, we've been doing a lot of food insecurity relief. We've been doing a lot of financial relief across the country. And one example that I want to bring up to light is that in one of those efforts, we had a mother who explained that right now her decision was if she could buy masa cooking oil and beans versus laundry detergent. And I just want you to imagine the decisions that our community has to make, not only in the past few months, but in the months ahead as we wait for relief from a federal government who stalled for so long to serve our community, who discriminated against our U.S. children and mixed status families. And so there is certainly a lot of hope that with the incoming Congress and with the incoming administration, with President Biden and Vice President Harris, there will be change. I would also say, Carla, that the vaccine is top of mind for everyone. And what we're already seeing is massive misinformation. And so, para nuestra audiencia que está escuchando, acuérdense, question the source. If you see a video and it has no source, question the intent of that video. If it's not coming from the CDC, the World Health Organization, your local government, please make sure to not pass on more misinformation. And I'm going to stop there, Carla, because I definitely want to hear from Siegel and the mayor, but I'm just very grateful and honored to have gotten the text from Dr. Andrade, someone that I admire so much, and just to the entire team as USHLI, Adrian, and so many others that make this possible. Mil gracias a ustedes también.
Thank you so much, Cindy. These are definitely unprecedented times. Now, I want to ask Ms. Cordero, what challenges has the pandemic brought to corporate America?
Yeah, this is a great question because, you know, the world is facing, these are unprecedented times for the entire world, and that is true for corporate America as well. You think about some of the most pressing issues that we're all facing, and as you mentioned, there's the pandemic and all the financial economic implications of that. There's this reckoning on social injustice, a very, very polarized political landscape in the US, and an urgency to address climate change. I think we're seeing the impacts of that as well. And so corporations really have the responsibility to proactively respond to these challenges that are facing society. And interestingly, what we see is that people are actually, they expect companies to speak out and step up to fix these problems. You know, there's a study that was just released. It's the 2021 Trust Barometer by Edelman. And you know, one of the key findings is that business is the most trusted institution right now, and the only institution that's seen as both ethical and competent. And that, you know, there are many people actually that see CEOs in particular as the fourth branch of government, right? So there is an opportunity and again, a responsibility to actually address all these issues that we're facing. I am very proud of what General Motors is doing and what our CEO Mary Barra is doing to fight these challenges. And I'll give a couple of examples quickly here. In terms of the pandemic, you know, we've been, as a global company, we've been tracking the impact of the pandemic from the beginning, starting in China, and then, of course, coming to the US. Needless to say, the safety of our employees was and continues to be a top priority for us. And so right away, you know, we've been working from home in the US since March. And the company was proactive enough to say that we're going to be back only in June of this year, depending on, you know, how we see the pandemic progressing. But importantly, for many of us, there are many of us, many employees who actually cannot work from home and have to be in the office, have to be at a plant, have to be at an R&D lab. And so for all those people, there's rigorous procedures that are in place to make sure that not only we enter the building in a safe manner, but there's also contact tracing. And then I would say the other exciting things that I think are important to share is how the company has stepped up to help the community. mainly by producing masks and ventilators. So for ventilators, for example, it was very clear from the beginning that quickly the demand for ventilators outpaced the supply when we first started in the pandemic. And the hospitals were overwhelmed. Access to ventilators can really make a difference between life and death. So General Motors volunteered to work with a company called Ventec Life Systems. And together we built 30,000 ventilators in just 154 days. And that really, made a significant impact on the supply of ventilators at the time. From the beginning, in terms of face masks, for the beginning, we actually had a group of engineers, designers, buyers, manufacturing folks. They all got together to convert one of our facilities to produce here in Michigan to produce masks in less than 7 days. And 4 weeks after the initial production, we had delivered 1 million face masks. And this was truly an enterprise effort. I can tell you that I was part of face mask production. I actually attended a couple of shifts to help with that production, and that was true for all of the employees around the Michigan area. And then the last thing that I want to just touch on is social injustice, right? And that is the other thing that here in the U.S. we are all facing. And again, this reckoning on social injustice. And General Motors has taken, many companies have taken a very clear position on how they plan to address, and that is true for General Motors as well. And Maribara has become a founding member of the Business Roundtable Special Committee to Advance Racial Equality, and as a member of their the Immigration Coordinating Committee and the members of the Coalition for the American Dream, we continue to advocate for bipartisan and permanent legislative solution for Dreamers. And we've come out and very clearly said that we stand with Dreamers and the ones that we employ and the hundreds of thousands that are employed by multiple companies. So we've taken a very serious look at social injustice and more broadly diversity, equity, and inclusion in our company.
Thank you for that insight. And now this question is for the three of you. What is the most valuable lesson that you have learned in these unprecedented times? Ms. Benavides, let's start with you.
Gracias, Carla, for that question. And I will tell you that I am always amazed by the resilience of our community and the fact that so many, Carla, are able to pivot, find new ways, new strategies. Yet we know that this is nothing new to our Latino community, right? Our Latino community who are the essential workers of America. And even within the Latino community, acknowledging our vibrant immigrant community who is always thinking very strategically, always creative and finding solutions. And so as I think of the question, Carla, I will tell you that resilience is something that comes top of mind. And particularly as so many in our community are trying to just survive and make sure that their families have access to not only education, but also just the basics, techo y comida, and making sure that at the same time, we're keeping our families safe and healthy.
All right, thank you so much. And you just made me remember just a ton of stories that we've done on Telemundo Chicago, and in seeing what our community is trying to do to stay afloat. So someone maybe that lost their job at a restaurant maybe is now going out and in their community and selling tamales. And I mean, they've just gotten so creative and so resilient, as you were saying. Mayor Romero, talk to us about your experience.
Yes. What, I was a brand new mayor when the pandemic hit. I was elected in November of 2019, inaugurated in December of 2019. And so when we started hearing about the pandemic coming into the United States, I was, you know, tearing the carpets of the mayor's office and moving in. And so, good thing that I had about 12 years under my belt as a city councilwoman. I know the bureaucratic infrastructure in the city of Tucson, and the community knows me. And so, I know policy making. But I had to remember something that my parents taught me, that you have to let courage kick in, en coraje, del bueno. It has to kick in, and it needs, I had to really take control of the situation as the mayor of the city of Tucson to help protect the residents of our city. So, in a very calm way and with courage and conviction, I really had to fight and jump in terms of mitigation measures to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our city. And at times, it really was going against what the governor of Arizona was messaging Arizonans. Really, it was pushing for CDC guidelines and the guidelines that public health officials were putting out: wearing a mask, social distancing, staying at home as much as possible. I had to make some calls that were very, very hard for small businesses in our community in terms of closing them up. But it really was taken seriously by Tucsonans. And so the actions that I had to take quickly with the advice of public health officials took a lot of courage, but Tucsonans and Arizonans have paid notice. And I think that because of the quick, courageous actions we had to take, we really helped bend the curve, especially, back in March, April, May, and really set the tone for Tucsonans here. So being flexible, being able to communicate clearly and calmly with our residents here in Tucson has been something that we, nobody tells you. We're living in tumultuous times, and we're living in times that we really don't know what's going to happen next. 2020 was an incredibly difficult year for so many of our families. And acting quickly, taking federal CARES money and putting them back in the hands of working families, of small businesses, of nonprofits, of seniors, of children that needed Wi-Fi to be able to keep on learning at school. All of those decisions had to be made quickly and communicated effectively en inglés y español para que la comunidad pudiera entender y que no hubiera confusión.
Ms. Cordero, some of the young leaders that are joining us today are going to be part of our workforce soon. What is the outlook of corporate America for the next 5 years, and what opportunities should Latinos in particular be ready to act upon?
I like to say that the opportunities are endless. Once again, we are in an inflection point in many industries, mainly driven by innovation and technology. And if I take the automotive industry as an example, and you look at what's happening in the automotive industry and the electrification of the automotive industry, that is truly an inflection point. Particularly at General Motors, we really believe in an all-electric future, in a future with zero emissions. And so we have been investing significantly, not only in technology to make that happen for electric vehicles, but also in talent and making sure that we have the right talent and talent with the right skill set to drive us to that future. And so the opportunities are tremendous. We, as an example, through the first quarter of this year, we will be hiring 3,000 new employees across engineering, design, and IT to help us transform the future of product development and software as a service. I like to give. There are a couple of examples of Latino employees at General Motors that are really helping us drive innovation and really making a difference that I think can really, I hope, can be inspirational stories for everyone listening. So one is Keisha Camps, who works as an engineering group manager, and she worked on our autonomous vehicles. And she was doing that all while she was serving the community as the founder of an all-girls robotics team here in Detroit. And I like to mention Jesse Ortega, who is the architectural chief engineer for future electric vehicles, and was recently presented with the Great Minds in STEM 2020 Engineer of the Year Award, which is a significant award in that organization. And he also was the recipient of an award by the Society of Hispanic Engineers, Corporate Achievement. And so I like to say that we already have several examples of Latinos that are making a difference in corporate America. I just mentioned two from General Motors. And as we think about where the world is going, we will need fresh talent that brings the right skill set to the workforce. And so once again, I like to talk about endless opportunities for someone who keeps an open mind.
There's great opportunities out there, definitely, and we need to step it up and be ready to take them. Mayor Romero, what are some of the biggest needs and challenges in our communities of color? What are you seeing that they're facing right now as governments try to reopen schools and businesses in general safely? And how can our young leaders help in these times of transition?
Thank you for that question, Carla, because I think young leaders can really help, especially take over with their families. Many like me, right, are first generation Americans and really are a part of the pillars of their family. So many young leaders are helping their siblings, getting online, continuing their education. Many young leaders, because of the tumultuous political and social dilemmas that we've been confronted with this year, can get involved. You don't have to be 18 to make your voice heard. You can pick up the phone, call your mayor, call your congressional representative, call your governor, and ask them what you need. Our families, our familias, especially mixed status families and immigrant families, have had to endure this pandemic as essential workers, have had to endure this pandemic, losing hours at work, completely losing their jobs, without any help from the federal government. What me and a colleague council member here in Tucson did was that we created an immigrant relief fund to help those families that were not helped in the first CARES relief package. We brought into Tucson $1.25 million to help working families, immigrant working families that were not helped by the federal government. So one of the things that you can help your family with is to find these types of funds that you can apply for and bring funds into your family to help the financial situation. Also, the city of Tucson, with some of the funds that we receive from the federal government, we put back we constructed a Wi-Fi network in the city and connected with our public school districts here in Tucson to provide free Wi-Fi to working families and to families that are part of that district. So what you could do also is help, right? Help your family in looking for these opportunities that maybe your state government or city government or other nonprofit organizations have to help relieve in the efforts with Wi-Fi connectivity, with food, with cash assistance for your families. And so there are many different ways of helping, both politically and on the social area, and also with taking the reins many times of being able to lead your family, your siblings, your parents into being able to find help. And so I'm really happy that we have a majority of a group of people that are joining us today that are young. You are our leaders, and you can make a difference.
Definitely a very strong, powerful message. Thank you, Mayor Romero. Ms. Benavides, this ties on to you as well. What do nonprofits need right now from the community, and what role are nonprofits going to play in the next years as the world aims to get back to normal?
Wow, Carla, I will tell you that that's a big question. I'm going to try to keep it short because there's so much that is happening in our communities. And, like I would absolutely start with funding. The truth is that so many nonprofit organizations are doing work on the ground, whether it's in Tucson or whether it's in Dallas, Texas, or whether it's in San Juan, Puerto Rico, or whether it's in New York City. So many of our nonprofits really are that front line of interacting con nuestra comunidad and providing those needed resources. And again, I just want to highlight that there is, a major trust issue that has occurred. Part of it has been what our community has experienced for the last 4 years. And part of it is just a natural distrust of government. And so I would start with absolutely funding. And then I would say, if there was a learning lesson from 2020, and, shout out to all those of you who registered and who voted and turned out to vote and got others to also turn out to vote. And I know this is like a major legacy of USHLI and something that Dr. Juan Andrade always preaches, I think even in his sleep. It's registering and turning out to vote. But I would say, Carla, I think it's so important that we continue to invest in trusted sources like nonprofits who are doing this work. And oftentimes, we make a dollar stretch so far because, some of our organizations have volunteer members across multiple states, Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. And we also have that building community trust. But more important than that, we are trusted messengers, right? So as we're speaking of important issues, whether it's the technology gap, which Mayor Romero brought up, or whether it's, the census and getting counted, or whether it's registering to vote and turning out to vote. And right now, getting the vaccine, we are those frontline organizations who are working directly with the community. And then I just want to mention, because I think this is so important, for those individuals who are tuning in, maybe you weren't asked by your parent to run for office, or your parent never dreamed of you being a politician and said, mija or mijito, yo quiero que seas un político o política. We need you in the fight and struggle. We need more Mayor Romeros who are at the table making decisions, who bring in the perspective of our community, because we know that Latinos are not only 60 million strong today, but in just 3 decades, our community will be 130 million strong. And what that means is that in the context of the United States of America, by 2050, 1 in 3 Americans will be of Latino ancestry. But we can't create the changes and the impact if we don't have more mayors Romeros at the table, or Representatives Garcia, or Congressperson X, or President of the United States Castro. You know, we need more of you to consider public office, serving in government, and running for office as your career. And so as we think of Carla next steps, and even, you know, what my ask would be, I'm asking you to run for office. I want you to strongly consider that. And I know that, you know, it takes at least 6 to 10 times to be asked to run for office before we consider it. I'm asking you, run for office. Lancen, make sure that you're running. And again, we know that we have the commitment, the heart, and we need more Latinos represented at the table. And you might as well start now. And with that, I would just encourage you to check out our website, because we actually have something called the We Run National Campaign Training Institute, to make sure that more Latinos as young as 17 and 18 years of age are thinking of public office.
That's amazing. I mean, you brought me back to thinking about the different opportunities that we are exposed to, and sometimes it might be through an internship or through someone that you know that does that the type of work that maybe you are maybe curious about, or maybe you are not interested about, but would like to know at least what it is about. You should definitely give it a try. Everyone that's joining us. Ms. Cordero, we know that you are also the lead of the Latino Resource Group at GM. Could you share with us what have you learned? What has been your experience as that lead?
Yeah, I've been I've been the president of the Latino Employee Resource Group. We call it GM Latino Network. I've been the president for a little over 2 years, and it's been an honor to serve as the president. It really is. It really has given me the ability to, of course, meet so many Latinos across the company. We have over 2,000 members, but also really make a difference for the Latino community at GM. We talk about our mission being to attract, develop, and retain Latino employees. And so there's a lot of effort that we put around the recruiting portion of Latinos. And then for developing and retaining, we have several, I would say there are 2 things. One is a focus on professional development of Latinos in the company, as well as creating a sense of belonging. And some examples are, for example, we have a mentoring program that is held amongst Latinos in the company with Latino executives. We have a brand new program that we're just launching called Networking with Executives, and it matches 5 Latinos with 1 executive for an informal chat. And so there are several benefits in terms of activities that people can participate in and gain value out of it. I always say, though, that there is one particular value that people don't realize until they get involved, which is to really engage with the employee resource group and take an active role. And in our case, with our ERG, we have a national board that has several people that are leading different committees and different initiatives. We have chapters around the country. And I tell people, get engaged. It's a wonderful opportunity to get visibility to other people in the organization, get to know others to make friends, but also get to know others to network, right? I can say that today I know people across the entire organization that I would not have known before. And so if there's a question that I have for my work about manufacturing, even though I don't work in manufacturing, I know who I can reach out to through the ERG. And so there is plenty of value that comes from engaging. And I really highly suggest and recommend for people who go into a corporate environment that has employee resource groups to engage.
I have two last questions that are for the three of you. I want you to please give these young leaders, you have already started, but give them your advice as to what do they need to do in order to succeed and make a difference in their field of choice, considering too that they may be entering the workforce as we recover from this pandemic. That's my question number one. And my last question is, how should they conquer those obstacles that they may face as they are trying to reach their goals? Let's start with you, Mayor Romero.
Thank you, Carla. I'm going to be very short because it's very, very simple. A kind advisor and mentor to me once told me, you know what, Regina, don't let anyone tell you that you're lucky. Luck is a residue of hard work. And so it's just hard work. We need to show up, work hard, do our homework, whether you're in school or not, and go for it. Go for it. It's important that you surround yourself with mentors, and really the way you conquer those obstacles is by working really hard to push them aside. And so it's hard, it hurts sometimes, you cry sometimes, you fall sometimes, but one of the most important things you can do is show up and work hard.
That's very, very strong, encouraging words. Thank you. What about you, Ms. Benavides?
Gracias, Carla. You know, something that my parents always instilled in me, me inculcaron, es la importancia de la educación. And, you know, they always told me, Carla, and I come from a very humble background. I, you know, helped my mom clean houses, and I used to pick up cans in the streets of Los Angeles for fun on the weekends with my parents. And they always said, hija, lo único que te podemos dar es tu educación. And, you know, for us, that's so important. I'm so fortunate that, you know, I have an older brother who went into the U.S. Marines, two younger ones who have completed their university. But it's so important that we have that papelito, because that papelito matters so much in the United States. You know, it also, you know, we know that there's data that tells us that we earn $1 million more over our lifetime simply for having an education degree. And so I want us to think about that and also consider other options. You know, maybe you are an entrepreneur. Maybe you want to go into a technical program. I just want you to make sure that you understand what your options are. And as far as challenges, gosh, you know, I think I would be a millionaire by now, Carla, for all the times that I was told no, for all the times that I was told you're not a leader. And, you know, at heart, I am an introvert. I'm also very kind, and I'm also very empathetic. And, you know, sometimes we ourselves create these conceptions of who leaders are and who leaders should be. And the truth is that every single one of us, and I just want you to imagine a baby, whether that's yourself, your brother, your child, when you see that face, what you see is intelligence, successfulness, happiness. And we know that life happens and that our journeys sometimes take different paths. But I want you to understand and to really focus on your self-worth and what you bring to the table. And as Latinos, as Latinas, innately, we are people of power. We are people that come with creativeness, and we are people who are overcomers and get things done. And where I want our community to be is to be in a mindset of thriving. Instead of thinking of the challenges first, think about the opportunities. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be people that tell you can't get it done, or you don't fit the right mold, or you don't fit into this box. Guess what? You don't have to fit into that box because you were created to do good stuff and create impact in our community. And so I will say, surround yourself with people who will mentor you, who will guide you. And also, if you take anything away, remember to always be involved, whether that is as an advocate, whether that's working in government, in the corporate world, in the nonprofit sector, domestically, globally. Nothing can stop you except yourself. And absolutely there will be challenges, but you can do it. We believe in you. And as you think of examples, I want to uplift the mayor, right? She has been the first in so many different areas. She's leading through such a difficult time in Tucson. And I just want you to think about Arizona, right? And Arizona has some rebranding to do because it's been ground zero for a lot. But just imagine the challenges that she faces every single day. We all do. And so I want you to know that we are here for you. You can always reach out to me. I'm at lulac.org. You can find my information there. I'm also on Twitter, and believe me, I do respond to my tweets and my Facebook. But just know that you have a community of people who love and support you. And I know that I always throw Dr. Andrade in here. But Dr. Andrade, truthfully, when I think of leaders who have been doing this work for decades, right? Like he's like my Cesar Chavez of my time. These are folks that are training us, that are setting that example of what we can be and what we can do to create collective impact.
Definitely, Dr. Andrade has been a mentor for so many generations, for so many of us. Now let's ask Ms. Cordero her thoughts, her advice for our young leaders.
The main advice that I would give young professionals thinking about joining corporate America is to keep an open mind about the opportunities that are available to them. And, I remember thinking about my own journey. I remember that I was very, very focused on marketing and having a career in marketing. And when I look at the opportunities that were given, that came to me through working in a large corporation, they have been so varied. And they have been so interesting. And I grew so much from doing so many of these different things. So for example, in my own journey, I started in marketing, which was my initial idea. But then I worked in market research. I worked in product development. I worked in our car sharing business. I worked in our global innovation practice, and I'm now in portfolio planning, right? And so I probably would not have thought about this career path when I was first starting out. And, what I would say is whenever these opportunities came to me, I kept an open mind. And I said, yes, let me try that. And, let me see what I can grow and how I can contribute in doing this. And again, it's just made it for a much more interesting career. And I feel I am a more well-rounded professional for having been open-minded about taking on new assignments.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cordero. And I'm going to reiterate what these three wonderful, powerful Latinas have said. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Just focus. And if someone does intend to tell you that it's not possible, prove them wrong. I'm Carla Leal from Telemundo Chicago. And on behalf of Dr. Andrade and everyone behind USHLI, I want to thank our three powerful Latinas speaking in this great, amazing panel. I hope that everyone that has joined us took a lot of notes because they gave us some great insight and so much inspiration to move on and to make an impactful difference. Muchas gracias a todas.